Hello, my name is Axis, and I'm here to introduce you to the basics of RPG combat on the Unknown Shores server. Perhaps one of the more timeless questions on roleplay servers is how to resolve conflicts between players and players, players and monsters, and otherwise. Between classic player versus player combat, roles, or emote fights, the debate in communities like ours have raged on for years, a decade in fact. On Unknown Shores, we have decided to do a combination of all three. The RPG combat system allows you to engage in conflict resolution much faster than roles, with the flair of emote fighting and the sport of classic PvP. If you have not watched the RPG character creation video, I suggest you do so now before you watch this video. You can check out the link in the description below. You'll need to understand a created character to have any grasp on player combat. Fighting another player or monster on our server is an endeavor and should never be taken lightly. Even a simple fight with a sandcrawler or a peasant might leave you injured or fatigued, which can spell dire consequences for later engagements. While we are in a very conflict-heavy setting, players should still make tactical decisions about who they're fighting, why, and if they aren't putting themselves at unnecessary risk. Combat itself can be confusing, but once you get into the rhythm, it'll be a cinch. You'll be doing 4 primary types of actions in combat. The first is attacks, which deal damage directly to a player's health. Healing is next, which restores health directly to other players or creatures. The next is buffs and debuffs, which provide long-term effects on players or other targets. And finally, utility, which provide a single, varied effect for that turn. When you've decided you'd like to start a fight, you first need to find an enemy combatant, like a monster or another player. To begin a fight, first approach that target and go to your RPG handbook. Find the Start/Join a Fight button. From there, you'll be able to attack that target. If a fight is ongoing, you will instead join a fight by picking which of the fights around you you'd like to join and going from there. Make sure you have the target you want to attack selected with your mouse cursor, otherwise you will not join the correct fight or attack the right target. When a fight begins, players will be given a turn order based on a roll plus their perception attribute. Then, you'll do battle in that order. In this case, I will be acting first in this fight. The majority of the combat information I receive will show up in your chat menu below, so make sure you pay close attention to it to see what's happening. I usually like to enlarge my chat menu so I can see more information at once. You can do so by unlocking your chat menu and then dragging the corner. The character I'm using is primarily melee focused, which means I'll need to get close to do damage. To do this, I'll use the Move ability on my target. Move is a utility ability, and brings me into engagement with my target. This is one of several abilities that do this, and allows me to execute my melee abilities. Some abilities can only be used when you are unengaged, so make sure you're aware of who has been moved, and who has moved towards you, and if you need to move away from them. Many abilities are also ranged, which means they can be used with or without engagement. This is the favorite of casters and rangers. My enemy will take a turn now, and they're going to perform a Poison Strike. This is a debuff ability that has been applied to my character. To check out what debuffs are currently affecting me, I can go to my RPG handbook and go to the States section. Here I can see the debuff has affected me and how many turns it will last. My enemy's turn has ended, which means mine has begun. As you saw last turn, we can see it again. At the start of my turn, I recover energy. My current energy will reflect how much energy I had last turn, plus the amount I regenerated this turn, which is equal to 10 plus half my ingenuity. With this much energy and an engagement range, I can use Weaving Strike, an attack ability which also applies a buff to me. It costs 12 energy and applies a buff that restores energy over time. At the end of my turn, you can see 2 effects hit me. The first is the damage from the debuff Poison Strike, and the second is the energy regeneration buff from Weaving Strike. Buffs and debuffs affect you as long as they are applied to you. However, the damage, healing, and other effects like energy regeneration will tick at the end of your turn. My enemy has passed their turn, which makes me think they're going to store their energy and use a powerful move on their next turn with all of that pooled power. So I'm going to use a defensive ability. In this case, I'll use Evade. Evade is a buff ability that boosts my dodge rating using my melee action check. Melee action check takes my strength or dexterity, whichever is higher, plus 2d5, 2 dice rolls of 5, and applies it to my dodge score. This is not to be confused with a magical action check, which is similar, taking your willpower plus 2 dice rolls of 5. With my defenses boosted from evade, I comfortably pass my turn to him. My enemy turn begins and wow, I get hit with a powerful attack called Mutilate that critically strikes me even though I've dodged. Let's first take a look at the ability in our dictionary. It's a weapon attack, so it'll likely be under the Martial Spell School. Here we can see that it deals damage with both of his weapons and uses up that Poison Strike debuff that I had on me to automatically critically strike. It's a hell of an ability. Thankfully, I managed to avoid some of the damage with the dodge that I brought on with my evade ability. You should always use your ability dictionary to identify what abilities you are unfamiliar with. It's relatively easy to do. A lot of combat is figuring out how to manage your energy, health, and essence, using abilities at the right time, managing risks and rewards, taking time to check your character sheet, to inspect the character sheet of other combatants, and picking the right targets to make better use of your abilities. It's all a dance. The back and forth struggle that can get complicated with more players and monsters. So try to pace yourself. Spend time practicing with your friends or using the training dummies in the start zone. I'm going to let this battle play out here while I explain some other details. During combat, if there is an issue or if the fighting is no longer required, players can pause or end the fight by going to the Start/Join section in their RPG handbook. You can click End to start an end vote in which all other players have to agree, or you can unpause or pause the fight there. Fighting will go back and forth until all players have voted to end the fight, or one side is defeated. When a character's health points hit 0, they'll be incapacitated and vulnerable to execution or injury. When a player executes another player, the executed player will permanently die and be sent to the spirit world. If a player is executed by an NPC or monster, they'll receive a debuff for some time called Grave Wounds, which will severely debuff their character. And if an NPC executes you again while you're affected by Grave Wounds, you will permanently die. For injuries, players can inflict Grave Wounds with a severe injury, ruining their chances of battle for many days. They can also choose to knock them unconscious, which will lock their character in place for a few hours as they are passed out. There's also Kidnap, which will allow you to force an injured player to follow you for a short time. This video will certainly not cover all of the abilities and functions in combat. It will give you the groundwork on how to perform in combat and what to expect. Pick your battles, play smart, and be observant. There's no shame in fleeing or negotiating mid-fight and saving your own life. And better still, showing mercy can win you a lot of friends in the dangerous world of the Doldrums. This has been Combat. I'll see you guys in the next video.